chronic disease in people over 50 and what could be the cause of it. Well, years back, I was probably one of the first ones to discuss this on the radio here in the Valley of the Sun. Time magazine came out with an article called The Secret Killer: The Surprising Link Between Inflammation and Heart Attacks, Cancer, Alzheimer's, and other diseases. Chronic disease. And when you really look at this in general, this information just isn't reaching us. Because if you're looking at chronic disease, look at the National Council on Aging and what they say about it. Then you put a couple things together. Who stands to benefit from this? This is from the National Council on Aging and Chronic Disease. Of course, they have to do the woke thing and call it chronic conditions. These are chronic diseases. Age, family genetics, and gender make it nearly impossible for older adults to avoid becoming a chronic disease statistic. According to the National Council on Aging research, get this, 94.9% of adults age 60 and older have at least one condition, while 78.7% have two or more. You probably have a parent or grandparent who is managing a condition right now, or perhaps you are managing one yourself. And obesity, which impacts about 42% of adults 60 and older, 42%, get that one, can increase your risk of conditions like heart disease, type 2 diabetes, and some cancers. With these kinds of odds, you might wonder if there's anything you can do to prevent the onset of chronic medical conditions or make managing an existing one easier, and the answer is yes. When you look at this in general, and they keep telling us, you're going to be one of the statistics, and that lifestyle plays a major role in all this stuff. Let me share this article with you. This was written 20 years ago. Again in time. The Secret Killer: Surprising Link Between Inflammation, Heart Attacks, Cancers, Alzheimer's, and Other Diseases. Inflammation is the body's first defense against infection. But when it goes awry, it can lead to heart attacks, cancer, Alzheimer's, and of other hosts of diseases. What does a stubbed toe or a splinter in your finger have to do with your risk of developing Alzheimer's disease, suffering a heart attack, or succumbing to colon cancer? More than you might think. As scientists delve deeper into the fundamental causes of those and other illnesses, they are starting to see links to an age-old immunological defense called inflammation, the same biological process that turns the tissue around a splinter red and causes swelling in an injured toe. If they are right, and again, this is 20 years old, and the evidence is starting to look pretty good, it could radically change doctors' concept of what makes us sick. It could also prove a bonanza to pharmaceutical companies looking for a new way to keep us well. Let's go 20 years forward, or less than that. Let's go to 2020. The COVID pandemic. Who were the ones who were more predisposed to getting COVID? Those over 60, those that were diabetic, those that had existing heart disease, and those that were obese. That's our generation. a case of chronic inflammation. And some of the things that they don't talk to you about when we look at inflammation, in general, I talked about the cytokine storm. These cause inflammation. These cytokines are produced not only in the liver, but from fat cells. So the fatter you are, the more cytokines you produce. They cause chronic, low-grade inflammation in the body, leading to all kinds of conditions, from heart disease to diabetes to cancer to Alzheimer's. Low-grade, chronic inflammation. In fact, when you look at heart attacks in general, and that's in this article as well, 7 out of 10 heart attacks occur in people who have normal cholesterol. Did you know that? But they have low-grade inflammation. I'm sure you've seen commercials on TV talking about vulnerable plaque or unstable plaque. I'm sure if you go to a cardiologist, you've heard that term before. If you're not, this is the first time you've heard it. Listen real carefully. It's not when the artery blocks itself with plaque buildup and cuts off blood flow to the heart where most heart attacks occur. It's when that plaque ruptures and causes a blood clot to form, causing a heart attack. In a lot of cases, fatal the first time around. You ever hear of the widowmaker? That's usually the case. There's methods of determining if that's the kind of plaque you have. They go up into the artery with a heart cath. They check the temperature of the plaque, which indicates inflammation. And then they run what's called an HSCRP, high sensitivity C-reactive protein. That's a cytokine marker. And when they see that number go up, they start to become concerned. Because I know many of you out there might be, when you go to your doctor now, you're having an HSCRP done. You see that number over 3, you better start to be concerned. Because that means you have active inflammation, most likely coronary related. When it goes real high, then we're looking at acute inflammation, something like a recent injury or an infection somewhere. But when you're in that range of, maybe 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 in that area, you possibly have inflammation in your artery. So the secret killer, the surprising link between inflammation and chronic disease. Inflammation and chronic disease. And when you look at the top 10 chronic diseases, I'll list a few of them here. Alzheimer's, heart failure, kidney disease, diabetes, heart disease, arthritis, high cholesterol, high blood pressure. Those are in the top 10. And when you look at the number I said earlier, that 94%, almost 95% of adults age 60 and older have at least one of these conditions, while almost 80% have 2 or more. And some of the best markers when it comes to this is belly fat, visceral fat. And I talked about this on my show last week, how we as a nation, in the last 50 years, the average female weighs as much as men did 50 years ago, at about 170 pounds, at 5'4", with a 38, almost a 39-inch waist. Back then, it was about 25 or 26. Look at the difference. In men, you're not doing much better with a waist over 40. And you're about 25 pounds heavier 50 years later. And that's an indication of active inflammation in your body and the possibility of having a number of these chronic conditions or chronic diseases I'm referring to. There are ways to treat this. Exercise. A low-carb diet. In fact, did you realize that ketones released from fat are anti-inflammatory in nature? Did you know that? This is from the National Institute of Health. All new research being done. But yet, what do they try to push down our throats? You got to go on a plant-based diet. Plant-based diets are the healthiest for you. It helps prevent heart disease and cancer and Alzheimer. No, it doesn't. Sorry to say, gang. And it can exasperate it, make it worse. You need to watch carbohydrate intake in your diet. And another one, exercise is anti-inflammatory in nature. Yes. That's why anybody who has pain will tell you when they're done exercising, in most cases, they actually feel better. It helps to take inflammation down.